Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Franchise Hockey Manager 9 playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. Our Blackhawks have recently completed a great regular season, 121 points, the best in the NHL. We've won a third consecutive President's Trophy, which is the great news. The bad news is that 2 previous years, when we had won the President's Trophy, we haven't done much in the playoffs. 2 years ago, we got bounced in the second round by the Dallas Stars. Last year, we were upset in the first round of the playoffs. So the hope is that this year we're able to do much better in the playoffs and hopefully run all the way to a Stanley Cup. Certainly a borderline historic regular season with 121 points. And we will be getting an opportunity to get some revenge potentially on Dallas for 2 years ago, as they are once again our first round matchup. Before we get into the series, take a few moments to look at some potential honorees, and a little bit of potential hardware could be coming our way this year. No surprise that Jesper Wallstedt is on the short list of candidates for the Vezina. And for the Norris Trophy, Quinn Hughes and Sam Rinzel, our number one pairing on the blue line, are both nominees. A bit surprising, no nomination for me for Executive of the Year, but Old School Sports is a nominee for the Jack Adams Trophy. So we have not won a lot of hardware on the individual level in this playthrough with the Blackhawks. Looks like we've got an opportunity to win some awards this year. And most importantly, hopefully we can close out this playthrough with a second Stanley Cup championship for the Blackhawks. And as we get ready to begin the playoffs, we're in a pretty good spot health-wise. Julian Mays, the young forward, out for 2 to 3 months with a fractured fibula. You can see he only played 24 games for us this year at the NHL level and was -5 in those games. So unlikely that he would be in the starting lineup for us. Taking a look at our lines, Jesper Wallstedt, hot right now, and had one of the best seasons in the NHL in terms of his goaltending, so he'll obviously be starting in goal for us. Mentioned that Hughes and Rinzel, both Norris nominees, are our top pair among defensemen. The youngsters Xavier Veilleux and last year free agent signing Simon Nemec on the second line. And then a couple of homegrown players, Matteo Rotundi and Roy Chung, are our third-line defensemen. Top line, Kent Johnson, Quinton Byfield, and Isaac Rosen, very productive. Second line of Eklund, Dylan Larkin, and Will Shields, also productive. Third line, left winger Cole Sillinger, Nathan Villeneuve, and Alex Bocage. And then our fourth line, Linus Eriksson, the rookie Chavan, and Adam Jecko. So those guys won't be getting a ton of ice time, I don't believe, but think that we've been a very productive team, both offensively and defensively, throughout the course of the season. You can see the best goal differential in the Eastern Conference is 84, and our goal differential on the year is 128. So we are, over a goal a game better, or over half a goal a game better, if I could do some simple math, than any other team in the NHL this year. Do have 2 other 100-win teams in our division, so even if we are fortunate enough to get by Dallas, certainly have potential for one of the tougher second-round matchups, but those are the breaks, and hopefully we can get things started and get on a long playoff run with the Chicago Blackhawks this year. And things have gotten off to as good a start as possible. 3-0 victory for the Blackhawks. Goal and an assist from Johnson. Rinzel with an assist. Quinn Hughes with a goal. Looks like we faced 25 shots, and our starting goalie Jesper Wallstedt turned all 25 of those away. So a great start to the series for the Blackhawks. Hopefully we can just keep that momentum going and not get into a situation where it's going to be a series that causes us a lot of stress after the disappointment of the playoffs the last few years. Would certainly prefer one easy series. So the way to make this an easy series is obviously to win this next game at home. Looks like everyone's still 100% fitness, so no changes to the lines as we get ready to play Game 2 against the Stars in another shutout. So things are going really well so far for the Blackhawks. Wallstedt finally gets the first star after a second consecutive shutout. Goal and an assist from Larkin, got an assist from Eklund. So the series is going as well as we could possibly hope at this point. We're going to be traveling south down to Dallas now. The hope is to certainly keep the momentum going. I guess I should technically check the lines and just make sure that no one's worn out. Byfield a little off at 98% fitness, but certainly not going to take out our first line center for a playoff game. Hopefully we can get through the series quickly. And a third straight shutout. Wow. That is pretty impressive, the performance that we've been getting from Wallstedt. Once again, star of the game. Bocage with a couple assists. Matteo Rotundi with a goal. 3 consecutive playoff shutouts for the Blackhawks, and Wallstedt at this point outscored the Stars 10-0 in this series so far. So the goal certainly now is to win this last game here and get some time to rest before our next series. You can see Byfield, not at a point where we're going to take him out. Certainly would think, yes, Wallstedt is a 5-star heat level or 5-fire heat level after 3 consecutive shutouts. Not a shock to see that number. Hopefully we can win again today and continue riding the hot goalie. And a 6-3 win. So Wallstedt finally proved that he is actually mortal. But still a great start to the playoffs for the Blackhawks. Isaac Rosen with 3 assists, got a goal and an assist from both Rotundi and Nemec. Looks like we jumped out with 3 goals in the first and 3 goals in the second. Probably quieted the home crowd for Dallas at the American Airlines Center and took things home after that. Nemec, Rotundi, Byfield, Eklund, Byfield with a second, and Bocage were the goal scorers for the Blackhawks. So a 4-0 series sweep over the Dallas Stars. And now we get some time to hopefully get everybody rested up and ensure that we remain healthy for our second round series. And while I certainly feel that we've been a bit unlucky in the playoffs the last couple seasons with the Blackhawks, you can definitely see just by what's happened in the first round here that the Stanley Cup playoffs can often be predictable. We've got a 4th seed and a 3 seed alive in the other bracket in the Western Conference. 4 seed in Philadelphia, 3 seed in Carolina still alive. The only matchup where it's the 2 favorites from the first round series that both got through happens to be the one that we're involved in. And we're going to be going up against the division rival Predators, who finished with the 4th best record in hockey with 103 points. One of only 3 teams with over 50 or more wins, including us. So we probably got one of the tougher matchups possible, but we're a 121 point team from the regular season. Certainly have had some time to ensure that we're healthy, everyone back at 100% fitness. So we are just going to continue running with the lines that we have run with thus far in this series. Hopefully we can, I don't think we're going to outscore Nashville 16-3 in a 4-0 sweep, but hopefully we can continue to take care of business on the ice. Get this first game in the books, and a 3-0 victory, the same way we started off the series with Dallas. Wallstedt, 27 saves. He has been incredibly hot if he can remain as hot as he has been throughout the playoffs, that could be a huge asset for us. A hot goaltender can definitely carry a team, and if we have one of the top goaltenders in the league who happens to be hot with the offense that we have, definitely feel like we could hopefully do some damage. You see we got all three of our goals in the third period. Rinzel, Larkin, and Eklund all tallying goals for us. So we're off to a good start. Now the goal is to win a second in a row at home and put a lot of pressure on Nashville before we head onto the road. So let's see if we can continue our momentum, and another 3-0 shutout. So both series we have started with a pair of 3-0 shutouts at home. That's pretty ridiculous, but we are definitely taking advantage of Jesper Wallstedt being incredibly hot, and the timing of this hot streak certainly could prove to be a big benefit for us. Development report, Coughlin, Eriksson, and Mays, even though he's hurt. I don't know how you improve your acceleration when you're out with a fractured fibula, but apparently Mays is doing some intensive rehab. Larkin, the aging veteran who had a really nice year for us, I believe with 38 goals. Moving in the wrong direction, but that's to be expected, and you can see how popular these Blackhawks are right now. We have an insane 11 of the top 20 selling jerseys in hockey are Blackhawks, including the youngster Chauvin who just came up. The whole NHL and the whole hockey world is just thrilled with what they're seeing out of the Blackhawks at this point. Don't think we need to change anything in the monthly budget. Keep maxing out scouting and morale. We're so popular that we don't really need to promote too heavily because we're selling out every game. The hope is to just go to Nashville and keep this momentum going. And I know it's riveting to watch you waiting for these files to be auto-saved here. But I like to kind of just run live through these playoff series, find out what's going to happen, and keep my stress level high. I know that it's probably not nearly as stressful for you, and in the whole scheme of the world, it's actually not that stressful for me, but I do feel like when I build a good team that's dominant in the regular season 3 straight years, would certainly love to get a championship out of it. Guess we've got to nominate another player. Oof. Got some players with a little bit of reputations in a couple cases on the ballot. I think we will go with James Patrick. I don't generally give that a lot of thought, as those of you who have watched me over the years know. And if you haven't watched me over the years, or you're a first timer, or you haven't subscribed to the channel, would really appreciate it if you do. Get ready for this game against Nashville. Everybody's at 100% fitness. Nobody's banged up, so no need to change these lines, which have been working like a charm thus far. Game 3 in Nashville, finally a loss for the Blackhawks during the playoffs this year, 6-3. They just jumped on us with 4 goals in the first. We did get goals from Villeneuve, Roy Chung, and Isaac Rosen with his first of the playoffs. So good to see both Villeneuve and Rosen finally finding their way into the net. Surprising that the defenseman Chung has 2 times the goals of those two forwards. Wallstedt looks like it was a pretty rough effort for him. Gave up 4 goals in that first period on just 14 shots, and then he got pulled for Svedabak. Clearly that's going to mean that his hot meter is not quite as hot as it was, but I still have a hard time believing we're going to do anything but continue to have him in the net for us. Byfield getting a little worn down by all the minutes, but still certainly stays out there. Wallstedt, yeah, down to four flames in terms of his hotness. Certainly going to keep him in goal. Hopefully we can turn the tide and get a win at Nashville and go home with an opportunity to clinch the series in 2 days. And another shutout, 6-0. So that is insane. We have played 8 playoff games now. We have a 7-1 record and 6 shutouts in the playoffs from Jesper Wallstedt. Just absolutely crazy. Goals from Rosen, Shields, and Larkin in the first period. Linus Eriksson, Bocage, and Eriksson with a second in the third period. So a lot of new guys are scoring and getting goals on the stat line. Wallstedt saved all 19 of the shots he faced. And we'll be headed back to Colorado with a 3-1 lead, all 3 wins in this series by shutout. So the hope is to certainly get the series over right now. Everyone back at 100% fitness. These lines have been working incredibly, so no need to change them. Can we get things clinched? No, we cannot. A 5-2 loss. So although we did have that 6-0 shutout in Game 4 of the series, Games 3 and 5, we gave up 11 goals combined. Larkin now banged up, so that is not optimal. Let's see what the box score looks like. Did Wallstedt end up getting pulled again? Nope, he was out there, so gave up the 4 goals, and then looks like they must have gotten an empty netter at the end. So it's 3-2, and now we are headed to Nashville, and now we are also in a situation where we're going to be potentially without our second-line center. It says he's game available. We'll see what his fitness level looks like when we do get to Nashville. It says 100% right now, but I tend to think that that's going to be lower by the time we get to the game. If not, that would be a nice bonus for us, but that doesn't seem like the way things should work. So taking a look at the roster now, and actually, yeah, Larkin, even with that bruised knee, is 100% fitness. Typically in the past, when I've had players even with even game available, it's a little surprising to see him at 100% fitness. So I don't think we're going to take him out. Wallstedt's back up to 5 flames in terms of his hotness. Hopefully we can just get this one over here and not face a potential deciding Game 7 at home. Unfortunately, we will be, though. The Predators have come back on us. The 3 games that we've won have all been shutouts. Anytime we allow a goal, though, we lose. So that's putting a lot of pressure. And John Chavan going to miss 6 weeks due to a torn hip flexor tendon. So we're going to have to get him onto the IL, figure out who we're going to bring up. So I'll do all of that right now before coming back for Game 7 of the series. So we have put Chavan on the IL. He's also unlikely to be seen again throughout this playoff run. What that will mean, we did bring up Jordan Forget, so he and Lafreniere will still be our healthy scratches. Does mean that Tomas Vesely is going to take over as our 4th-line center. It's kind of a crazy situation given that we've had 7 wins thus far in the playoffs. 6 of them have been by shutout, and we are still now facing a back against the wall game at home. As dominant as the team was in the regular season, Nashville has definitely snuck up on us, winning 2 in a row now and 3 of the last 4. The hope is that we can get another shutout at home and just put a stranglehold on this game in this series, because certainly a second-round exit will be very disappointing. I guess I should just check in, make sure that everyone's at a Oh, yeah, Larkin is now only at 80% fitness. I think we have to still play him. But do we move him down to the third line so he's not out on the ice so much? Guess we could put Leferrier into the lineup. He can play center for us. He's reasonably competent there. I think I'm just going to swap Villeneuve and Larkin. So Larkin's playing fewer minutes, given that his fitness level is down. Pair him up with Sillinger, another veteran in Bocage, so that still should be a pretty solid third line. Hopefully Wallstedt does the job for us. Let's find out. And we do get the 7-4 win, so we're on to the Western Conference Finals. Definitely feel good about that. Got a goal and an assist from Rinzel, Dzeko, and Johnson. Jumped out to a 2-1 lead. Outscored them 3-1 in the second. So we had a pretty good cushion heading into the third period when there was a lot of scoring. Got goals from Eriksson and Dzeko in the first. After they came back and tied the game 2-2, Villeneuve, Chung, and Johnson kind of helped open things up for us, and then Rosen and Rinzel. So we had a 7-2 lead before a furious stretch by them over the last minute and a half saw the Predators get a couple of goals on us to make the final result a little closer than the game actually was. Certainly not a vintage game by Wallstedt, but we are on to the Western Conference Finals, and it looks like we're going to be starting up against Edmonton in 2 days. They've been waiting for us, so they will be more rested up, probably a little bit healthier. Looks like we got the Islanders and the Sabres out in the Eastern Conference in a Battle of New York. And Edmonton, the last Canadian team, against the Blackhawks here. Taking a look at the standings for the season. Edmonton was a 96-point team, so we certainly will be big favorites against them, even though they have been waiting for us. And the Islanders, a 98-win team, up against an 88-win Sabre team. So we are the only of the 5 100 teams in the NHL this year. We are the only one that is still alive in the conference finals. So as we get ready for this Western Conference final against the Edmonton Oilers, the good news is that at least in this third straight President's Trophy winning season for the Blackhawks, we've made a respectable run in the playoffs, getting to the conference finals. Clearly the goal is to win another 8 games and be hoisting a Stanley Cup. It does look like Larkin's fitness level is down to 66% with that lingering bruised knee, so we are actually going to take him out of the lineup for Game 1 here. You can see even Byfield's not at 100% fitness after the 7-game series. And we're actually going to put Forget into the lineup. He was only up with us for 4 games, but was pretty productive there. And Dzeko is capable of playing center for us. So we're going to move the lines a little bit. I think we actually probably want Dzeko as our third line center, keep Vesely, who just is in the lineup because of the injuries, as our fourth line player, and then put Forget in as our right winger. Hopefully Wallstedt remains really hot. Would absolutely love to continue riding the hot goalie as long as possible. It's kind of interesting to look at this team right now. Center has historically been a very strong position for us over the years, and we felt like our wingers have been a little weaker, but with the fact that over the years we have transitioned people like Sillinger to become centers, or to become wingers for us, and we are now out Larkin. Would definitely say that center is probably the weakest of the 3 frontline positions for us as we begin this series. That said, we still should definitely be the favorites. Let's see if we can get the series off to a good start against the Oilers. Oof, 5-4 loss in overtime at home. So that was not the way we wanted to start it. Fortunately, it does look like Dylan Larkin is back. Kent Johnson with a couple of goals for us. But definitely not great to lose in overtime. We got a first period goal from Bocage, Hughes and Johnson with goals in the second, and then Johnson with a goal in the third. Did not take them long. Sorry, that's a penalty. It did take a while to get into overtime before they got the goal from Fabian Lysell to win the game. So Wallstedt was okay. He faced a ton of shots, but that's to be expected when you go into overtime. So not the start to the series that we wanted. Hopefully, at least with Larkin being healthy, that'll make our roster a little more what we'd like it to be as far as our skaters and our scratches for game number 2 of the series, but definitely feeling like it's almost a must-win situation. Larkin only at 88%, but I don't think we can fool around at this point, being down 1 game to nothing already. Feel like it's going to be pretty important to get that win at home. So we will move Dzeko back to right wing. And we will put Larkin on the third line just at 88% to limit his minutes a little bit, give a few more minutes to Villeneuve. Hopefully we can get a big game out of Wallstedt. We definitely do not want to be headed to Edmonton down 2-0. And we do get a 5-1 win, so that was a good result for the Blackhawks. Doesn't look like any of those injuries have anything to do with us. Rosen with 2 goals and 2 assists. Byfield with a goal and 2 assists. Quinn Hughes, the defenseman, with 2 goals and an assist. Faced 24 shots. Looks like Wallstedt presumably turned away 23 of them. So a nice performance. The Oilers have taken home ice advantage away from us, so we are still not in the position that we'd love to be, but certainly much prefer going up to Edmonton tied 1-1 than down 2-0. And Larkin back at 100% after we limited his minutes, which is good. Other than Byfield, everyone's kind of at total fitness, so we will move Larkin back up to the second line. I think he can play a few more minutes for us today, and hopefully we can get a win today to get a little bit of control going in this series. And we do get a 4-2 victory over the Oilers, so we aren't getting the brilliant goaltending that we were getting in those first couple series from Mr. Wallstedt, but it's certainly been good enough to get the job done. Edmonton scored first in the first period, but then we came back with goals in the second and third. Will Shields, Roy Chung with his 6th. The young defenseman's been very productive. Also got goals from Larkin and Eklund. So now the hope is to win Game 4 here and head back to Colorado with a chance to clinch the series. Certainly we've got a lot of work ahead of us in Game 4 before that will be the case. Everyone's at 100% fitness, though, so feeling good about things right now. Hopefully we'll be feeling good after we click the button here. And we do get a 5-4 win. Looks like this one went into overtime, so a little bit of revenge for the 5-4 overtime loss that we incurred in Game 1. But we've won 3 in a row now. Looks like we got goals from Rinzel, Bocage, Larkin, and Johnson. And then in overtime, Linus Eriksson assisted by Will Shields and Xavier Veilleux. Wallstedt saved 30 of 34 shots. We put tons of pressure on their goalie. 55 shots on goal. He saved 50 of them. So he was fantastic against us today. But the offense of Chicago just overwhelmed him ultimately with the number of shots that we put on goal. So took 2 in Edmonton. We've won 3 in a row in this series now, and we are up 3-1. Obviously, the goal is to just clinch things at home and then hopefully have a little time to rest before we find out who we might be playing in the Stanley Cup finals. Byfield, again, not perfect fitness-wise, but not at a level where we're going to change anything. Quick look at the lines. Not going to change anything here either. Can we clinch? A 5-2 victory, and it looks like Buffalo just took out the Islanders 4-1 also. So it is going to be a Chicago versus Buffalo Stanley Cup Finals. So a Great Lakes Stanley Cup Finals after a 5-2 victory for Edmonton. Goal and 2 assists from Byfield, a couple assists from Hughes. Isaac Rosen continues to light the lamp with a goal and an assist. Looks like we exploded. It was a 2-2 game heading into the third. And then in the third period, goals from Johnson, Rosen, and Byfield. Three first-line players. Our left wing, our right wing, and our center on our first line all scored goals down the stretch. And you can see that got some production there from the number one line that we really needed. And Blackhawks team finally back in the Stanley Cup Finals as we try to win a second Stanley Cup in this playthrough of the Chicago Blackhawks. So our Blackhawks have looked like a potential team of destiny all season long, 58-19-5 record. So I'm guessing the Bruins this year will ultimately end up with more wins than that, but a dominant Bruins-like season by the Blackhawks thus far. And they are 3/4 of the way towards fulfilling that destiny. Going to be going up against a second-seeded Sabres team from the Atlantic, but with 88 points. Certainly the weakest team that we have faced in the playoffs so far. So from that perspective, would once again expect us to be big favorites. Their goal differential on the year was plus 33. We, as we talked about, were plus 128. So we are close. We're only 4 games away from potentially being able to clinch our second Stanley Cup title with the Blackhawks, but we likely have the 4 toughest games ahead of us at this point. Take a look at the roster. Looks like everybody's at 100% fitness. No prospect of getting either Mays or Chauvin back. So this is going to be the team that we continue to run with. Wallstedt's still pretty hot in terms of his heat level. Hopefully he continues to perform well, and would love to see him perform more like he did in the first series and then the first half of that second series. The series against Dallas when he had 3 shutouts and we swept the series. And then he also had 3 shutouts against Nashville in the second round. Has not been as dominant since we took that 3-1 lead against Nashville, but he's obviously done what's needed to be done to get us into the Stanley Cup Finals and 4 games away from a title. Fortunately, a 4-3 overtime loss to get things started. So each of the last 2 series, we've started with an overtime loss at home. Matthew Savoy with a goal and 2 assists for Buffalo. Got a goal from Larkin. Looks like we only faced 32 shots, so their goalie, Irving, did well. Wallstedt, not a vintage performance, and certainly don't love the fact that we ended up losing in overtime on that goal by Peyton Krebs on the power play after a tripping penalty by Sam Rinzel. So not the way that we wanted the finals to get started. Hopefully we can do better and put ourselves in a position like we were in the last series against Edmonton, where we win the second game at home and at least are going on the road tied in the series rather than down 2-0. That would be not an insurmountable obstacle, but it would certainly make things much tougher. So hopefully we can get things done home against Buffalo. 7-2 victory, so feeling better about things after the floodgates open for the Blackhawks in terms of our offense. Got a goal in the first from Byfield to take the lead. They came back to tie it, and then Jekko, Larkin, Nemec, Isaac Rosen with a couple, and then Bocage to put the bow on things in a 7-2 victory. Had 43 shots, so we put a lot of pressure on the Sabres. Hopefully that stabilizes the series, and we can get a win here in Game 3 in Buffalo. Kent Johnson not at 100% fitness, but certainly not something that's going to make us change our lines at all. Can we take the advantage back? No, we cannot. These Sabres are a plucky young crew from Buffalo. They got 3 goals on us in the third to bust things open. Our only goal was from Byfield they got 3 goals in the second to bust things open. Our only goal was from Byfield in the third. They only put 22 shots on goal, so definitely was not a vintage performance from Wallstedt, allowing 3 of 22 shots to get through. Game rating of only 55. So now the pressure is definitely back on our Blackhawks. Down 2-1 and on the road. Feel like this is as close to a must-win game as you can get without it being an actual must-win game. Wallstedt is still pretty hot. Let's hope that he shows up well here in Game 4. 4-3 victory in overtime. So the series is tied 2-2. It's a 3-game series now as we're going to be heading back to Chicago. Sillinger with a goal and an assist, a couple of goals from Byfield. Looks like Byfield got the goal in overtime to win it because Sillinger, Byfield, and Veilleux scored during regulation, and then Byfield, even strength goal 11 minutes into overtime. Rosen and Nemec with assists. Rosen with his 17th assist of the playoffs. So it is down to a 3-game series at this point to determine who the 2030 to 2031 Stanley Cup championship is going to be. And that is not good news. Jesper Wallstedt is out day to day. So I missed that. Go back. That is not cool. Bruised cheekbone. Game unavailable. So, Mr. Svedabak, it is going to be time for you to earn that backup goalie salary in the most pressure-packed games of the year. Definitely interesting. I think we will actually send Forget down to Rockford, and we will bring up Ryerson Leenders. Where is he? Ryerson Leenders, who made his NHL debut earlier this year when we were without Wallstedt for a couple of games. So not an optimal situation where we're going to be going to Svedabak now with Leenders backing him up, but that is the situation that we find ourselves in here as we get ready. And Leenders is hot, but I just can't see. We got to give the opportunity to Svedabak and hope that Wallstedt is back from that bruised cheekbone sooner rather than later. I mean, Leenders was good in the one game he played for us. Only allowed 1 goal. Turned away, obviously, all but 1 shot that he faced. But even though he's hot, I think we have to go with Svedabak, who ended up having a pretty good year for us. He didn't play much because Wallstedt was so good but a 9-4-1 record, 268 goals against, 917 save percentage. Clearly was pretty productive for us, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't go with our backup rather than a guy up from the AHL. But a huge Game 3 here at home, and a definite twist that we are without our superstar goaltender, possibly for the rest of the series. And it ends up possibly that's going to really cost us a 6-3 loss. And now we have given home ice advantage to the Sabres, and they can clinch the Stanley Cup at home in Buffalo in Game 6. Got a goal in the first from Bocage, and then we actually took a 2-1 lead with a goal from Johnson. But 3 goals from the Sabres in the third period broke things open. Svedabak was not good. Saved only 20 of 24 shots, so they didn't generate a ton of offense. But Svedabak, who other than coming in that one game, I believe in the second round, when Wallstedt was shell-shocked in that first period, hasn't gotten a ton of action. Hopefully it'll help now that he's played a little bit. Looks like Canada just won the World Championship. That is not our big focus right now, but a dream season is looking like a potential nightmare ending. We'll see whether Wallstedt's healthy enough to go here in Game 6 potentially. If not, we'll face an interesting decision between Svedabak and Leenders. Still selling tons of jerseys. Still getting some positive development. The older guys slowing down a little bit. Svedabak, too. Don't love seeing that for the guy who we are going to be very reliant on. No need to change the monthly budget. Looks like Wallstedt is still not available with that bruised cheekbone. So that's a huge loss for us. I don't see how we can possibly, as hot as Leenders is, he's just not as good a goaltender as Svedabak is. And we're paying the money to Svedabak to be our backup goaltender. This is your opportunity to shine. And he did in a 5-0 win. So we are headed back home once the month-end autosave is done here. We are heading back home for a deciding Game 6 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. May very well have our backup goalie starting for a third consecutive game, given that injury to Mr. Wallstedt. So if we do end up getting the title this year with this team that we thought might be a team of destiny, it's certainly going to have been done the hard way. Got to get a Hall of Fame vote out of the way here. Again, I don't care all that much about this. We'll go with Malkin. Tavares, the former Islander. Pat Verbeek. And we'll go with a goalie with Barrasso. So our Hall of Fame votes are in, but right now our focus is whether our goalie will be healthy. And since we haven't gotten any emails, I'm guessing he is still out. So Wallstedt, unavailable for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. Other than that, looks like the team is as fit as possible. So we're not going to change anything. Svedabak, a little bit of hotness after that shutout win in game number 6 on the road. Can the Blackhawks fulfill their destiny and win the 2030 to 2031 Stanley Cup? Yes, they can. A 6-1 victory for the Chicago Blackhawks, so a nice finish to the season, a nice potential finish to this entire playthrough. Ended the season with fan happiness rating of over 100, of 100, I guess. Swept the Stars in that first round, the hard-fought quarterfinal series against the Predators. Relatively easy semifinals in the Western Conference Finals against the Oilers. And then another tough 7-game series when we had to come back from that 3-2 deficit with a backup goalie. And certainly Svedabak allowing 1 goal over those last 2 games. Brilliant performance for him. Take a look at the box score. Linus Eriksson with 2 goals and an assist. Vesely, the fourth line center with 3 assists. Jekka with a goal and 2 assists. So it looks like our third and fourth lines were extremely productive in that final game of the year. Actually, I think those guys are all fourth liners right now. So they definitely came through. Roy Chung with a goal in the second, his 7th of the playoffs, and then third period at home, put on a show for the fans with 3 goals in the first 3 minutes of the period from Byfield, Jekko, and Eriksson to break things open. Quinn Hughes puts the cherry on the top of the sundae with the final goal of the season. Rosen ended up with 19 assists. Will be interesting to see who the MVP of the playoffs is, but the Blackhawks going out on a high note, a 3rd straight President's Trophy for Chicago, and much more importantly, they finally get things right in the playoffs with a Stanley Cup championship, which is the second one of our playthrough here. So as I mentioned, we do have our second championship with the Blackhawks, which we love to see. Take a look at the playoff stats, maybe get an idea of who might be the playoff MVP. Certainly would think that Rosen, with those 19 assists and a team best 28 points, would get some votes. But no doubt that even though he ended up getting hurt for the final 3 games of the playoffs, Byfield had an incredible season for us. We can pull up his playoff stats for this playoff run here. And why is it only showing 6 games played? Oh, that was last year. Okay, that makes more sense. 14-4 record with a couple of overtimes losses. Those 6 shutouts in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So certainly brilliant playoff performance from a lot of players. Wallstedt, unfortunately, didn't get to play those final 3 games. But Svedabak and having the very strong goaltending duo, and we've had the 2 Swedes together for several seasons now, and it absolutely paid off at the end for us. So it was good to see that our investment in goaltending, and we had thought at times before the start of this season that we might look to move on from one of them, but fortunately we ended up sticking with both of them, and we needed every bit of what they both could give us with the 2 7-game series on our way to a Stanley Cup championship. So finally got the job done, as I said, for the second time during this playthrough. We won our first one with the Blackhawks in the 2023 to 2024 season in a bit of a surprise. This one's certainly much more expected given the great regular season that the Blackhawks have. But as we've talked about, we've had several great regular seasons, and this is the first time we've gotten a Stanley Cup championship with the President's Trophy winning team. So a great finish to the season for the Chicago Blackhawks. We will be back in our next episode to kind of take a deep dive on the season, see what this roster looks like as the Blackhawks start preparing for the next year, and also come back with our final decision as to whether we are going to finish up this series with that next episode or perhaps keep playing with the Blackhawks. Until then, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.